about that, how he fishes shallow water, how he finds these out of the way. I think weren't you guys out fishing today?
Kind of.
Yep.
Or like trying to film something.
Hey everybody, welcome to Bass University Live. We are late and live. We had some technical issues that took us a little while to get them dialed in, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us that have been hanging around on the message board. And I want to invite you guys to come back. And we've got an amazing show tonight. There's a lot going on. I know everybody's dealing with this coronavirus, as are we, and that's why it looks different. We're keeping our distance. I'm working satellite. I'm in my office, and I'm Skyping in for the show. And we've got Ott Defoe coming on tonight. He's Skyping in from his home, and we want to try to deliver this to you guys. I know everybody's going through a hard time. I know we're all dealing with things at work, with travel and bands all over the place. And I want to just spread my prayers and wishes that everybody stays safe and healthy through this process. But we want to deliver it to you. I think fishing is a great escape. I think it's a great way to keep our social distance. Great comment came across a message board to me today that said, all you got to do is stretch out your fishing rod, and that's the perfect distance that you need to be from everybody. So if your fishing buddy's in the back of the boat and you can't touch your fishing rod, you're the perfect distance. And but that's what's going on, So we were a little late, a little behind, but we're really excited about this because there was an amazing event that took place in the MLF this past week, and it was a lot of fun to watch. I know why a lot was going on. Sports were getting shut down left and right. MLF was broadcasting, and it was super exciting. I got to tell you, one of the most exciting outcomes that I've seen in fishing, where Ott came from nowhere, came from no man's land, came back and dominated the tournament. And we're going to be talking to him. How did he do that? Well, how did he decipher that pattern when everybody else was struggling, and he just kept pounding it until he figured out the dominant pattern, the developing pattern, and absolutely unloaded on everybody. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Want to remind you guys, we've got a lot going on. It's Bass University Live, so all of you guys that are subscribed over to Bass University TV, we're going to be hooking you guys up. We use your question on the air. We're going to be giving you guys some great prizes, specifically from Rapala tonight. I know we're going to be giving away stuff from TH Marine and others. There's some cool Rapala baits. And we're going to be talking about DT10 and all the other great baits that Ott used to dominate that tournament. And as always, in the studio, pulling an audible, pulling this one out. I don't know how you guys did it. We were, but you guys pulled it out and through some very, very difficult technical situations. You got us on the air. We got BTC, the Riz, Zach in the background you can't see. Yeah. But you guys did a great job getting us on the air tonight.
Yeah, I got to credit Zog for troubleshooting whatever trouble we were in. So I don't know. I think we're live, I believe. And anyhow, if this feels like the old days of Ike Live, you know what I mean, where we were consistently 20 to 30 minutes off. And I don't know. Yep. We had been pretty much on point for a while, but here we are. So.
Yeah. Well, difficulties always happen in broadcast. We know that, right? We've been dealing with the Ike Live thing forever and ever, but being able to solve them, I was impressed. I was impressed that Zach was able to get something done, and we got us all on the air. And I'm psyched.
We did it, but we're here.
Snaggy Zaggy.
Snaggy Zaggy got us up.
Well, a lot of it too is during coronavirus. Our support team and staff, a lot of people that we would normally be able to talk to are, we don't have the capabilities right now. So we got to deal with what we've got. And so it's making it a little bit harder, but we did good. We're live. We're going to be able to talk to our people, tell this amazing story. And it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people are still fishing, man. I know a couple guys in studio were fishing. In particular, Riz, you were fishing today.
I was. Yep. Big shout out
Well-
to the Five Alive Bassmasters for putting on another well-run tournament, as always with those guys. We did practice social distancing throughout the tournament. And basically, how they did that was all of the entry fees were collected beforehand, the day before the tournament by Venmo. All of the winnings were distributed this afternoon by Venmo. So basically, the winners didn't leave with a check. They got Venmo'd their money afterwards, and it was one boat to launch at a time, one boat to weigh in at a time, and you had to weigh in and launch by boat numbers. So there was only 2 guys on the dock at a time. So they really kept to the guidelines that have been set upon us for the virus that we're dealing with here. So big shout out to Five Alive for putting on a tournament, allowing us to get out there and fish and still compete.
Big shout out, and that was really cool. I like the strategy on social distancing and trying to keep everybody safe. You know, when we're out there on the water, is we're away from any out of harm's way, but it's those takeoffs and weigh-ins that where you can run into some trouble. So it was really interesting to see how they did that. What do you guys think about it that are watching? What do you guys think about fishing a tournament like that? I know a lot of states have closed even their federation tournaments, BFLs. Everything's pushed back and postponed. So what do you guys think about getting out there and fishing? I know I can fish. There's some ponds locally, and me and Jake are going to get out and we're going to walk banks, and that's what we're going to do when as these weeks pass to get through this situation.
I think there's really no better time to go trespassing. Really, there's just a lot less people out there, and it's really an ideal time to hit those golf course ponds and that private stuff.
As the dean of the Bass University, we do not advocate trespassing in any way.
That's right. I agree, but I encourage everybody to make their own decisions.
Like Daniel.
Daniel makes his own decisions. Make your own decisions, people.
Yeah.
I did see you sporting a giant. It looked like a big bluegill. BTC. That fish was huge.
It was about 18 and a half inches and 5 pounds. So,
man,
she was gluttonous.
Yeah, she was feeding up. She had her eggs. She was ready to go. Yeah. And that's what I'm seeing. That's the really cool part about this time of year, kind of in our part of the country and even south from here, is like the fish you catch this time of year, they're the heaviest they're going to be is right now. They're that 18-incher weighed 5 pounds. A month and a half from now, she's going to weigh 3.5, 4 pounds.
That's right.
Yeah. So now's the time to get the biggie. And, so send us your pictures. Let us know what you guys are fishing out there. And we got so much going on. I want to mention this one, Riz, and I'll let you reiterate it as you get into our promos that we got going on right now. But we've got our best program of the year going on. You guys are watching us over on Facebook or YouTube. I want to invite you guys to come over. We're offering 50 days free. So if you want to dip your toe into the Bass University, now's the time. By the time your free ride is over, you should be fishing again. And this is a great way to get through this period where we're all indoors. You can learn a lot. There's a lot of amazing content there. Or the annual subscription's $50 off. It comes to about $8 a month. It's a tremendous deal right now that we've got running, and we're gonna keep it running through tomorrow at a minimum. So you guys watching over there, come subscribe, and you guys will be eligible for all the prizes tonight and eligible for everything else that we do at Bass University. But there's a lot of other things we got going tonight, Riz. What else we got going on?
We have, as always, we're going to be doing some trivia questions. People will be able to win some awesome prize packs from our Rapala sponsor. I got some Rapala DNs that people are going to be winning, some Rapala Shadow Wraps, some VMC Tokyo rigs, some VMC Nico rigs. For our trivia questions, it's actually going to be all of that. It's a VMC Rapala pack valued at $45 for the prize pack. We're also going to be doing a Facebook like and share, and our Facebook like and share winners are going to get a Bass University official swag pack, and that includes 2 hats, orange and white and blue, a neck gaiter, and a Bass University t-shirt.
Pumpkin.
Nice. Hey, those neck gaiters, you guys that are wearing masks out there, I see a lot of guys wearing those face shields and neck gaiters. BTC's wearing one right now. That's that when you got to get in close quarters, that works too.
It also will prevent windburn from your face, which I did not have a neck gaiter with me this morning, and it was brisk this morning, Pete.
It was brisk.
Apparently you didn't have your sonar operating this morning either.
Well, no, I did. I just came off. I pulled the John McGraw. I came down off pad about 50 yards before I was supposed to, and I came down on the mud flat where, you're good as long as you're up on pad. You're good to run that. But when you come down in like
Flower pot.
8 inches of water. So, yeah. Maybe we'll show that video later in the show of the
nice. Yeah, you were lucky to be able to motor off of that.
Yeah,
I've seen it get so shallow in that area that you're going to be stuck there for a few hours.
Yeah, it was a teamwork deal. I got on the big motor and I put my partner up front on the trolling motor. So, we were just mowing the grass a little bit. That's all.
Well, that's a good deal. We'll look forward to seeing that video.
Yeah.
And we've got the Facebook like and share. We've got you talked about the trivia question we got coming up.
Yep.
We're
also going to be taking questions.
$50 off.
We're going to be taking questions from all of our Bass UTV subscribers. So guys, if you are watching on Facebook right now, take advantage of the deals that we have going on. There's no better time to give yourself the best opportunity in bass fishing to get high quality information from the best fishermen in the world. And if you do that tonight, you get your questions answered on the show, and we're hooking you up with some baits, some Rapala products, some VMC products, Storm, a whole multitude of things just by getting your question answered on the show. So head over there to Bass UTV right now, get subscribed, be a part of tonight's show with us. All right.
We're going to take a break, BTC?
Yep. Yeah, let's take a commercial break, and Ott Defoe is ready to roll. We'll get right to him.
Outstanding. All right, guys. Well, hang in there with us. Ott's going to be here. You get your questions ready, and we'll be talking about how to catch like 45 pounds in 40 minutes. I don't know how to do it. We're gonna ask Ott and figure it out right now. We'll be right back.
The micro jig rod from Cashin is not only a micro jig rod, it also works great for shaky heads, also works great for wacky worms, also works great for smaller finesse style swim baits. So 7-foot 1-inch, medium action, fast taper. You want a workhorse spinning rod, you might want to look at the micro jig rod. I got one, and then I had to end up getting 3 or 4. So the micro jig rod by Cashin, your next workhorse in your spinning rods.
Every moment on the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together, the One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Tackle Warehouse is proud to sponsor the FLW Pro Circuit and is the official tackle retailer of FLW, providing proven bass fishing gear as well as the newest and hottest tackle. Our friendly and knowledgeable customer service staff can help you every step of the way. And we offer free ground shipping on orders over $50. Tackle Warehouse, everything for the bass angler at the lowest prices. Guaranteed.
I have to be constantly on the lookout for new techniques to stay on the top of my game.
Giant.
Some have been more successful than others.
Giant.
The finesse fingernail.
Happens every time.
The chain gang.
Broke it off.
The crow's nest.
Never let go.
And don't even get me started on tackle management, especially trying to stop rust and corrosion. Peanut butter.
Not good.
Motor oil.
Gotta keep the rust off all these baits.
WD-40.
Keep the rust off.
Silica, toothpicks, Q-tips, the list goes on and on. I'm hard on tackle, I fish fast, I need my tackle organized and protected. I can't be worrying about losing baits to rust. And when it comes to tackle management, there's only one solution. Flambeau Tackle Storage Systems with Z-Rust technology. The original anti-rust tackle box. Uncompromised clarity. Renowned durability. The infused anti-rust option that is FDA safe and free of harmful chemicals. The organization options are endless, but there's only one. One box, one anti-corrosion technology, one family-owned American-made brand, Flambeau Z-Rust Tackle Solutions. Preserve, perform, repeat.
The micro jig rod.
What are you doing, little dog?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bass University Live. We are back from break, and we've got a great show tonight. And I see them sitting there on Skype, and I'm glad to have them. I miss them. It's been a while since I've been at your place. I guess it was last year about this time we were down that way, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. We've got fresh off a giant win at the MLF Classic Champion. You guys know him, one of the greatest anglers on the planet, Ott Defoe. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, Pete. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm glad we got a chance to talk to you, because we almost had a complete meltdown on the broadcast, man. So we're excited.
Glad to be on here. Yeah, I'm looking at that tree where I actually saw y'all posted on Instagram last night, that video, I think, of where I caught that big one with filming with you all right after the Classic last year, and that was right there. You could see the house in the background. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome, and that is a really good one. But my favorite spot in that shot is out on the point where I won $20 from you.
That's exactly right. Yeah, where I didn't catch one out there. No, yeah, I couldn't believe that I didn't. Yeah.
No, that was it was great, and that we came to your house after a giant win, and you've just come off. I got to be honest, man, it was one of the best come from behind, just outstanding things I've ever seen on TV.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's this last day down there fishing that championship round on Lake Athens really was, it really was kind of an unbelievable end to that day. I thought from the get go I would have been catching them, honestly, kind of at that pace. I mean, we only were allowed 1 6-hour day of practice down there on Lake Athens, but what I saw was really, really special, and I thought I would go drive right to them and immediately start catching them, similar to what happened in that last hour and 15 minutes. But it didn't. It never materialized until right there at the end. And that was, that was why I stuck with what I was doing, was what I had saw that, a couple of days prior. But that was a really fun 75 minutes of bass fishing. And I was telling Jenny just a little while ago, I was like, do you realize the last cast I made, I caught a 5-6? I mean, I've not made another cast since then. So, yeah.
I saw that, and it was interesting because that was a 5-pounder, and you're trying to catch that fish, and I'm like, get him in the boat, Ott. And you were just taking your time, like, I'm like, come on, you can put the hammer down right here.
Right.
And you said why you were taking your time in that shot, but you didn't want to get, you were afraid you're going to lose that bait.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd caught a bunch on. I've been checking my line regular, but I hadn't actually retied. I've been checking my line nearly every time I'd catch one, and it was good. But I was like, it's a pretty special bait to me at this point to have done what it did and won the tournament, and and everything like it was. And that I knew I had won. That being in that situation, I knew that another 5-pounder wasn't going to make me win or not. Had that been the case, now absolutely I would have been. I probably would have rushed to try to flip at something, but yeah, it wasn't necessary, and I wanted to make sure I did not lose my bait.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that, but I did take issue with the official because the rule is that the fish has got to be over the gunnel.
Right.
Now, define over the gunnel? Some of that fish was over the gunnel.
It was. No, it absolutely was, and it absolutely was, and I think he was erring on the safe side, knowing I'd already won anyway. but I'd already won anyway, so he probably could have counted it. But yeah, that had that been a fish to make a cut or a fish to win the event or something like that, I absolutely would have. I don't know if we don't technically. What's in football where they can throw a thing and get a review of the play? I would have called for a review of the play.
Is that a thing? Are you allowed to get a call reviewed?
Guys do. I know Jacob Brosnick actually at Okeechobee. He said that they got a fish landing violation called on him, and he's like, dude, that fish absolutely did not touch the carpet. It was early in the day and had plenty of time to have taken a penalty if it was necessary, but it was also early enough to get it looked at. And he's like, I don't feel I should take that penalty unless they say that absolutely did touch the carpet, because he knew it didn't. And they reviewed it and they said it absolutely did not. So yeah, apparently that is something you can do.
That's cool. I didn't know that existed. That's pretty cool. Well, you were here on this lake, and you had a day's practice and you saw them going crazy, but it wasn't that easy out at Fort. It was a nail biter at Fort.
Yeah, it absolutely was for me on my knockout day there. My first day had a good day, had like 55 pounds. My next day I didn't have to catch a lot, and I had caught more than enough by middle ways through the second period or so, and then that allowed me, all of the third period basically to go look and try to find some new fish on the bed. And so that was what I did, that was the only reason I was able to make it, because of those fish that I was able to just go find that day, and caught most of those in the first period. I had a good first period, had like 17 pounds. The man really struggled after that. A lot of the fish I'd found either weren't there anymore or were super hard to catch, I really, really struggled. Made a couple moves back to some water I had fished like my very first day, and was able to catch just enough to hang on and make it through that knockout round. That was a tough one to survive, and I was almost in the same scenario at Okeechobee and did get bumped out, and so I was just barely hanging on.
Man, I was watching like a hawk, and I'm watching like, oh man, it's like you guys are passing you slowly.
Yeah.
And Bobby Lane is a pound, I think 4 ounces behind you. You had to know that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
There's
he
like
and
15
Michael
minutes
Neal.
left.
Yeah, he and Michael Neal were both within a scoreable fish, and then there were a couple more guys that were within, a bite on fork, a 5-pounder. So yeah, it was, and it held that way for 15 or 20 minutes or something. I'm like, I was doing everything I could, but I was in a place where I didn't really want to be, but I didn't have time to get anywhere I did want to be, and it was kind of those just. I don't know if I need to keep throwing, just lay my rod down because I don't feel like I'm going to catch one moment. But yeah, thankfully it was enough to hold on, man. I feel like that was God's hand, just saying that He knew what was in store the next day, and just needed to hang on.
Man, it was. I was watching Bobby, and he's flipping shallow cover. He's flipping all the habitat that you're seeing everybody catch fish on.
Right.
And I'm like, he's got 15 minutes, and it didn't happen for him. You hung on, and you snuck in there, and you won, and I'm joined now by two-time Parkway Elementary School champ, fishing derby champ, Jake Luzak.
What's up?
What's going on, Jay? Yeah.
We're all home. I'm Skyping from home, and I know you are too. But everything's kind of shut down, and we're running Bass University from the office. And I'm glad you poked your nose in here, Jake. You're up in my studio.
Yeah.
But that was so cool watching you make that cut. And let's go back. We're on Bass U, and you're saying prayers. You're trying to calm yourself down.
Yeah.
That's all you can do, and the pressure had to be insurmountable.
It was. It absolutely was. And yeah, I mean, I pulled in a decent sized cove, and I've got 15 or 20 minutes, and there was 2 small pockets on this side, so I go through those, nothing. There's a really pretty pocket on the other side. I buzz over there, and I've got 4 minutes to go or something, and I'm just throwing my wacky worm around that pocket. I'm trying to fish it, trying to cover everything with a wacky worm, and you know how slow you got to fish a wacky worm, but also trying to cover it. It's like, do I throw it in there and do I let it soak, or do I twitch it and try to get it? You overanalyze every single cast, every single movement of the rod, everything that you're doing at that point in time, and just knowing that one more bite is all you need. But yeah, no, it is it's as tough of a pressure cooker as there's ever been in bass fishing, being on those cut lines for sure.
Yeah. I can't imagine the pressure. I felt it for you. I was glad to see it make it in there, and I want to dive in, and we're going to dive in a little bit with how you caught those fish. But before I do that, I see we got guys on the IM board that want to talk to you, want to ask you a few questions. Rich, who do we got?
Epic Eric on the message board would like to know, Ott, when you're throwing a DT bait, do you always use the same line diameter and rod and reel setup, or do you vary it?
Good question there. Epic Eric?
Yep, Epic Eric. That question was from Epic Eric. Good. And since he asked that question, he's going to win a Rapala DT10 for that question. Rapala DT10.
Awesome. I use varying line sizes depending on the exact bait. But truly, thinking about it now, really the only one that I throw on heavier line very often is a DT4, and that's typically because I'm probably fishing it in a little bit heavier cover. I'll use that DT4, around a lot of wood and a lot of rock and stuff, and I'll throw it on 14 XPS fluorocarbon most of the time. But really, pretty much other than that, I'll occasionally do that with a DT6 if I'm really throwing it around a lot of heavy cover. But from a 6, 10, 14, 16, a 20, I pretty much always fish those on 12-pound XPS fluorocarbon. So really the 4 is kind of the only one that is always different for me personally.
Great question, Epic Eric. I know lines are a key factor. It was a key factor for Jake when he caught his 6-pound, 6-ounce bass a couple years ago. What kind of line were you using?
I have no clue.
20-pound fluorocarbon.
20-pound fluorocarbon.
That remember.
I think to say, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Would you catch it on, Jake? What bait was it on?
On chatterbait.
Chatterbait, yeah. That's a good bait to catch a big one.
Yep, we were drowning minnows in his in a fishing derby around the house, and we saw some big bass rolling on those minnows. We tied on a chatterbait, and I think we caught the biggest bass in New Jersey that day.
All right, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And great question, Epic Eric. We love him. Of course, he's probably got 1,000 DT10s on his wall. I think he wants the custom Big Shad one.
He'll be able to get some of those that after I cast this year for sure. That's I've got actually that one one's sitting right here. So I guess you can kind of make it come into the screen, wiggling a little bit, wiggle through the screen that's the one right there from this last week that my buddy Biggs paints. But yeah, you can see it's got a little bit darker of a belly actually than what the sides are. It's definitely a different, a little bit different, more muted shad pattern than what you see on a lot of stuff. With the DT, those baits are balsa. All those grappling baits are balsa. So you can't make a bait translucent that's balsa. It's physically impossible. Like a plastic bait, you can obviously make it transparent, but making that shad color as natural and also muted at the same time is kind of a way to combat that and to to have a color that those fish will bite.
It looks as you were turning it in the light there, it looks kind of like Ike's boat wrap, where when the light hits it, it goes from purple to green.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. Yeah, it's got that purple and green. It's that same similar type of color of paint. It's definitely what that is. And the wrap was. It took them a few tries to get it what we wanted, and then it's got just a little bit of chartreuse stripe. Kind of like a sexy shad. A little bit. So yeah, it's definitely a very unique color. But I think it'll be a hot seller.
I think so too. I'm surprised they're still waiting until I cast. I would think they wouldn't want to rush that to market. I put my order while you were catching those fish. I put my order in to Dan. I'm like, I need to get some of these.
He texted DQ and said you needed a box of case of each. Yep.
But I don't think I'm going to get in. But you got to make the request.
That's absolutely.
Well, you were back to being on Fort. You're up on the bank. You're fishing around spawning fish. And was that a bubblegum Nico rig that you were throwing? Is that what you had going?
It absolutely was. Yeah, my first day I had 55 pounds. I think on 18 fish. Every single one of them I caught on a bubblegum wacky worm. It's a Bass Pro Finneck worm was the worm, but bubblegum color, and rigging it on a number 1 BMC weedless Nico hook. And a lot of those fish, some of them I sight fished. I mean, I would see the fish sitting there before I ever cast, and I would actually sight fish them with that worm. And then other ones I was actually just kind of blind casting, either where I thought fish were spawning or on the edge of that gator grass. And when I was blind fishing, I was almost twitching it like you would a floating worm. And I had tried a floating worm that day, but, when you rig a worm straight, like you do a floating worm, and I was twitching it, it'll kind of walk, but it covers a lot of water. Where with a wacky worm, man, it twitches and stops, twitches and stops, twitches and stops. So it really hangs in front of those fish's face a long time. And that same exact worm, wacky rigged, over fishing it like a floating worm, was much, much more effective. And I actually, tried it that day and really saw that firsthand, that they did not want it, for me, rigged as a floating worm. I needed to rig it wacky and really slow the bait down, make a lot of movement without covering a lot of area.
Well, that weedless Nico hook, I think, was big, because I saw where you were throwing it. And I'm like, how in the world is he getting that in there and getting it back with an exposed hook? But that thing was coming right through.
It does. It'll catch a piece of grass or something occasionally. But man, that hook is, if anybody out there has not tried that, that is the only hook I use for wacky rigging. I do not carry anything else. And that size number 1, I'll use a number 2, which is a smaller, lighter wire. If I'm fishing a lot more open water and for not as big of a fish. The biggest fish I'm catching are, 2, 2.5, maybe a 3-pounder occasionally, I'll get by with that number 2. But if I think there's a good chance of catching a lot of 2.5 to 4-pounders, I'm certainly going to go with that number 1. And then I was actually using it on 10-pound braid, which is, pretty normal, but I was using a 12-pound leader. And I mean, some of those fish I caught were 4-pounders that were back behind gator grass. And dude, I'd hit them and I'd winch them over that stuff, and I was boat flipping 3.5 pounders. And that hook wouldn't open up, and I'd boat flip those fish on 12-pound, 12-pound leader. So it's nice, dude. You fish it like that, it is basically, it's about 99%. That fish eats it, you hook him, you're gonna land him.
Well, we saw that in action. It was awesome. But I also saw you doing something else. I saw a couple of those fish that you were using. It was the Tokyo rig. When you saw it, when it was a bed, is that when you threw the Tokyo rig, or when did you switch back and forth?
Mostly, so that first day, those fish were pretty easy. I was in Group A, so I got the first dibs on those fish, and I probably could have caught on about anything, but that pink Nico was or pink wacky was what I used most of my second day. Now those fish had been pressured more, and and on the bed they'd already seen a lot of different stuff, and that was, and I'll be honest in saying this, I think those were the first bass I've ever weighed in competition on a Nico rig. I've used it some just fun fishing. I've caught some fish on it here and there, but the night before, even before the first day, I had thought about it, and I've caught fish on a swim bait on the bed before. But like I said, I've never Nico rigged really on bed fish with anything. But I was like, I actually rigged up two. I rigged up one with a crawl and then one with a swim bait, and man, that's the actual swim bait right there, a little 4-inch boot tail. Really realistic, very natural looking swim bait. I honestly, I really like the fact that it's got eyeballs. I do think that makes a difference with those fish. But just a very realistic one rigged up on that Tokyo rig. I've got like a 1/4 or 5/16 Swagger tungsten sinker on there, and that's a 5/0 heavy duty wide gap rig. But man, that thing right there, you put that on his bed, and then the way that thing sits on the bottom, and that bait just kind of hovers above it, and then you twitch it and just make that thing come alive. It was absolute torture on them. It really was. And I've seen that with a swim bait before, but it'd go in there and it hit the bottom and kind of make a dust cloud and get lost in the dust. That thing there hangs right above their face, dude, and it was. I could be throwing at one with that pink worm, and it'd be staying and looking at it and paying it attention. I could put that Tokyo rig in there, and it was nearly instant more times than not.
Wow, well, that's a great little trick for pressured spawners.
Mm-hmm.
It got you in and out, got you into the finals.
It did.
I want to reiterate, guys. You guys got questions about sight fishing, school fishing? I see Reese has got his hand up, so we got some questions. Now's the time. We've got the champ, Ott Defoe, right here, guys. So get your questions together. Let us know. Riz, what do you have?
I got a question, Ott. This is Brian. What was the length of your 12-pound fluorocarbon leader on that Nico setup?
Yeah, on my Nico setup, I was using 6 or 8 feet maybe. I actually started with probably 12 or 15. But when you're using a heavier leader like that, a lot of leader doesn't work very good. I tie an FG knot, but man, it doesn't cast as good. Right. So I shortened it down quite a bit. 6 or 8 foot was about the most I used. I'd use it down to maybe 3 or 4 feet, just because the water was fairly dirty. So I didn't think you needed a whole lot of it. But yeah, 6 or 8 feet was about the most that I was using. But it's like that leader is so heavy and the braid is still so small that it just doesn't come out of the eyes good. And I actually had one rigged up with 15-pound braid, but I'm so used to the way 10-pound braid cast that I didn't like the way that 15 was cast. And I don't know that you can break 10 on a spinning rod. I really don't. 10-pound braid is really, really strong, so I never have any trouble out of it.
Well, it's cool, Brian. I thought we were having major audio issues listening to Ott, but I think those are crickets.
There are crickets. Yeah, there are a lot of crickets out there. If I need to go inside, I can get out of the crickets.
No, I love it, man.
Okay.
It makes me want to go out to the pond right now.
Yeah.
I actually awesome. Can't hear it. I just hear the buzzing in my ears because, I'm old and got that little tinny ear. You know what I mean? Nonstop.
That's too many concerts, is what that's from.
Yeah. That and swinging a hammer, probably.
Yeah,
that has something to do with it. Yeah.
Power tools.
Too many circular saws. Riz, did you have a question? I saw your hand up.
I sure do. I have a great question, and that question is, what is the biggest advantage to using a swim bait on a Tokyo rig as opposed to a traditional flipping bait or worm?
My thought process, with that swim bait is just the fact that how much it looks like a fish. I mean, how much it looks like, whether they think it's a bluegill or shad or whatever else, something else that's going to, to try to aggravate that fish. When you're fishing for a fish on the bed, you're not trying to show it something that is necessarily extremely realistic or not. The thing, and I mean, I like something realistic. That certainly is, but you're just trying to make that fish mad, bar none. That is your goal. That's what you should have in mind when you're fishing for a fish on the bed, is that you need to make that fish mad, because that's what's going to make it bite faster more times than not. A natural cast, good, catching that fish off guard before it knows you're there, absolutely, that can help a lot. But once you're close, once you see that fish, it probably already knows you're there, and at that point, you just got to be thinking, I got to do whatever I can to make this fish mad.
Well, what do you think the biggest key is with going Tokyo rig on that as opposed to Texas rig and nose down? With getting
I think, getting it up off the bottom. I think having that little bit of leader basically to get it up off the bottom just a little bit. Because just like a drop shot, if I throw that thing out there, but then I'm pulling it back to me, it's not complete. It's not like that whole leader is holding it up off the bottom that far all the time. It's dragging behind it a little bit. So it's actually maybe half that distance off the bottom, so it's not way up off the bottom, but it definitely is elevated just a little bit. And I think that especially with a swim bait, that just makes it look that much more realistic too. A lot of fish don't spend all their time like a goby, where a goby is belly to the bottom. I mean, those, fish are typically at least an inch or two off the bottom, and I think that just adds to the realism of it.
I had heard, and I swear it was on a Bass U here, Pete, and I can't remember if it was a Bass U Live or a seminar, but one of the pros had talked about using how effective a drop shot can be for bedding fish, because you're up off the bottom. The fish is more likely to eat the bait as opposed to just trying to mouth it or get the bait off the bed because of the eggs being down in there. That they wouldn't want to pounce on the bait sitting down in the bed because they disturb their eggs. So they'd be more apt to, if it's up, to actually eat it.
That definitely makes sense too. That does. And the only that I was talking about the weedless Nico, and just how efficient it is. I mean, it's basically 100%. A Tokyo rig is pretty doggone efficient, but I lost fish on it. I ended up catching every one of them I lost, but I did have fish that, one or two a day that I would hook on this, get them halfway to the boat, they'd come off. But like I said, they'd go back to the bed. I'd end up catching every one of them. But that was the only reason that I honestly didn't use that 100% of the time, is just because that weedless Nico is, man, if he bites it, I'm going to catch him.
Well, Brian, I think I remember this conversation. Greg DePalma was in studio with us, who's a drop shot guy, and that's one of his big keys on bed fish is throwing that drop shot. And
okay,
yeah, that Nico rig is just like that, but it offers you some big advantages. Riz, I see you pointing at me. What do you got?
That last question that came in about the Tokyo rig was from David Prince, and congratulations, David Prince, for that awesome Tokyo rig question. You won yourself a Tokyo rig. The next question is from D. Burke, and D. Burke wants to know, Ott, how long do you typically spend on a bedding fish, and when do you give up on a fish on a bed?
Well,
man, that is a really good question, and there's never an exact answer. But man, the size of the fish obviously is going to factor into it in a tournament. And the thing with us too, with major league fishing, is with the 2 pound minimum, it has certainly slowed down our score tracker. Catching a 6 or 8 pounder is much more important than before, catching 5 or 6 1 to 1.5 pounders. And 2 pounders, even on a place like Lake Fork, aren't just everywhere. So it definitely what the score tracker is doing and all those kind of things all play into it. But more than anything, the attitude of the fish. I mean, absolutely. Those fish down there, especially our first day, they were basically every single one of them was catchable. I mean, honest to goodness, I've never seen fish so locked on the bed I've never seen fish that were that there was. I take it back. There was one, the biggest fish I saw that first day. I could not catch. But I would pull up there. It would be sitting in the bed. I'd make one cast towards it, gone. And I could sit there. It would come back up. It'd cruise into the bed, and then it would just keep on moving. I don't even waste a minute, 2 minutes on those fish. But if that fish will sit there, if it'll let your bait land, and it'll sit in the bed, and it'll turn and look at it, and it may even ease off, but then come back around within 30 seconds or a minute, you can catch that fish. You absolutely can. Some people catch them quicker than others, but and too, if you pitch your bait in there and you drag it past it and it doesn't leave the bed, you should be able to catch that one within 5 minutes.
I got to agree with you. I watched a lot of sight fishing derbies, and it can be like watching paint dry sometimes. Where guys are having to spend an hour. I had never seen anything like that. It's like these were piranhas, man. They were like smallmouth. Yeah,
they really were. I mean, it was. There honestly weren't many of them I caught on the first cast, but I mean, they honestly, Pete, were some of the hardest sight fish I've ever tried to see, in this much water. Honest to goodness, most of them were between. Actually, in practice, there were some so shallow their back fin was out of the water. Out of the water. But the deal is, I mean, that they were anywhere from this deep, from 7 or 8 inches deep to 1.5 foot. I mean, now the water was dirty and you couldn't see much more than that, but never more than 14 or 16 inches, really. But they honestly were hard to see because they did not move. You could pitch your bait in there and drag it beside them, and they would not move. So, most times you pitch it a live spot, and you'll see something dark move, and you're like, okay, there's a fish on the bed.
Right.
These ones wouldn't move. So unless you really saw him sitting there, you didn't know there was a fish on that bed. That's how parked they were. But, I mean, if you saw them, then you could find which end was their nose. You were going to catch him.
Wow. Do you think that's what separated you from the other guys? Maybe they weren't looking shallow enough?
Yeah, I mean, if those guys weren't looking up in the... I honestly was like, once I realized that in practice, I thought, I need to look where I don't even know there's enough water. I had a couple bites, one of the last pockets I fished in. I see this light spot, and I pitch past it into some little reeds and stuff, and a fish bites my bait before I really knew it was in the water. I mean, that's honestly how shallow they were. It was some of the shallowest fish I've ever caught in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was impressive. I saw all the guys doing it, and it was amazing. And you know what was cool is, and I noticed this on the Major League Fishing site, is you can go back and you can watch all this, guys. You can see all this stuff, all the live feed with JT Kenny and the guys all, and of course I doing his thing. That's all available over at Major League Fishing, and go back and check it out. I want to invite you guys, let you guys know, if you're watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Right now, it's 50 days free. You want to come and try Bass U, see the amazing seminars from Ott Defoe. We just released recently your pre-spawn cranking seminar, where you talk a lot about the details about how you use your DT10 and your other crankbaits. We just released that. All that stuff's available for you. Or we have our $50 off an annual subscription going on right now. So we know it's hard out there. Everybody's dealing with a lot of stuff. And we're going to make it easy for you to come and join our program and learn bass fishing. Brian, I see you. What you got over there?
And guys on Facebook, don't forget, like and share. There's a Bass U prize pack of a couple hats, shirt, and one of these burglary mask things.
There you go.
Like and share it, win that.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Now, I watched, things change on Fork. And this was interesting to me, and I think the tournament anglers or even the casual angler trying to figure this stuff out. Things tightened up on that next. Now there's a couple things that went through my mind. Are they tightening up because of the fishing pressure, or are they tightening it up because got no sunshine and there's no new waves of fish coming in?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It was that exact combination. Most of the fish that were up there seemed to have stayed, but like in practice, I don't know that I've probably experienced it somewhere before, but I honestly feel like our first 2 days of practice, those fish were making beds. I mean, that's what those fish were doing those days, those nights. They were pulling up there because it's like there was more beds and more fish each of those days of practice. And then I was in the first group, so I fished the very next day. But it really seemed like, that we didn't get the warmer weather, we didn't get the sunshine throughout the tournament. And what fish came is the ones that were there. And there wasn't a lot of new ones showed up. So those fish got pressured, those fish got caught, and they didn't leave, but there wasn't a lot of new ones coming into them same pockets right behind them, making a bed 5 foot to the side of them. So I think that was a lot of what happened, was kind of that combination of pressure as well as no real new fish to speak of coming up. And that was, a lot of times, if you're fishing a tournament when it's those spawning waves of fish are coming in, you get in a pocket that's good, you can go back the very next day and there's going to be the same amount of new fish showed up as what there was fish from the day before. And I actually started in what was my very best spot on the first day. I started there on my second day, and I didn't see a new fish one, not a single one. Now, we did have some rain. The water got a little dirtier, but I didn't even catch any, just fishing around it. I caught one fish in the back that I sight fished, in the back of that pocket, and that was it. So that was kind of my first indication that, man, that probably ain't going to be a lot of new ones that showed up today. You're going to have to just either, go back through some new water or go to some that you weren't able to catch the day before, to be able to keep catching them.
Right. Well, I saw, and shout out to Brandon Coulter, who fished an amazing couple days on Fork, and he was fishing pre-spawn. He was. And it looked like even a couple of them were post-spawn already in the place he was catching them.
Yeah, and that's unique. And that I looked for that a little bit. I didn't spend a lot of time looking for it in practice. Lake Fork, the amount of fish that's got in it, every fish in the lake wasn't on the bed this week. It wasn't time for that to water. This was the very first wave, and that's another reason those fish were spawning so very shallow. That's something that guys ought to know, is that the very first wave of fish that spawns on any lake throughout the country, I've seen it on Table Rock, Bull Shoals, I've seen it at home, I've seen it on Lake Fork now. The very first wave of fish that spawns super, super, super shallow. That's where the water's the very warmest. It's right up on the surface. But the next wave of fish will probably be a little deeper. The very last wave of fish that's probably going to spawn on Lake Fork come May will be out possibly in 4 to 7 feet of water, even with the visibility being exactly what it is. So that, just keep that in mind. The very, very earliest wave of fish you'll see spawn on any system throughout the country will be the shallowest, and they'll progressively get deeper as that spawning time frame goes.
That's amazing. And do you think they'll spawn into May down in Lake Fork in Texas?
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, that's like our lakes here, that you don't see it too terribly much. I've caught them on Cherokee in June off the bed. But like Chickamauga, for example, when we were down there for Bass Fest a few years back, big fish that was caught in that tournament, I think Hank Cherry caught it, a 10-something. He caught off the bed in June on Chickamauga. So that's that. Is it going to be the biggest wave of fish on Fork in May spawning? Probably not. But will there be some, and could be some big ones? Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That's probably something to do with the Florida strain, because we learned that when we were down at Chickamauga, that the Florida strain will spawn through a 90-day period. Where the females will come in twice. And
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, they spawn deep into the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And that flies in the face of a lot of what we, read about, heard about. We thought they'd come in, spawn, and they're done. But especially the Florida strain, they seem to go for a much longer period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of what was going on down at Athens. I think we really caught it in between waves of fish spawning. And I got some indicators of that pretty quick on that one off day. The first thing that I had was when I was driving in, you had to cross a little bridge right before you got to the boat ramp. And as I'm crossing this bridge, fish are schooling right there. I mean, I don't know if they're white bass or what, but I could see fish schooling right here by this bridge, which ends up being where I win the tournament. But I go put in, and I idle through that bridge, and I didn't really mark anything. A couple fish. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll stop by here later, throw at them, whatever. And go underneath the bridge, start fishing on a little point on the left. It's got some cattails, boat dog and stuff, and I just drop the trolling motor and go around through there. And I'm looking in the water. I'm up super shallow and I think I was throwing a like a fluke style bait, and throwing it around, and I'm seeing tons. I mean, the whole bottom nearly looks like it's beds. I mean, it's just clean spot after clean spot after clean spot. And the first fish I see is just a 12 or 14 incher, and then I go a ways before I see another one. I had one bite that I'm pretty sure was a grinnell up shallow. I fish around this pocket that looks really good and still have yet to have a bite. And out here, kind of out in the middle of this pocket, I see boosh, 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 boosh. See like 3 or 4 fish come up schooling. I throw at them. Nothing. They're in like 7 or 8 feet of water in some grass. I don't get any bites. Okay, so I keep trolling, and I get up to this very defined point, and I kind of swing out around it, and nothing. I tuck up into a little cut behind it, and I have a bite on a swim jig. I troll up there, and there was a bed, and I saw one swim off of it that was not scoreable, I don't think. And then I hear something. I turn around and look, and out on the end of that point, they are schooling like crazy.
Wow.
And so I turn around and go back out there and throw top water, and one eats it. I'm fighting it, and I can feel another one get on there. So I've got 2. I can feel them just, they're just torquing against each other. One of them pops off. I get one in. It's like a 2.5 pounder. They go down. I throw a jerkbait back out there, catch a short, throw back, jump off a 5 pounder, go back, catch a 4 pounder. And that 4 pounder is most definitely a post spawn fish. I mean, it is thin. It is for sure a post spawn fish, kind of beat up looking. So at this point in time, I've seen empty beds or a really small buck on the bed. I've already seen fish school in 3 places, and I have just caught a post spawn fish. So my mind is like, and the water temperature was 5 degrees warmer than it was on 4th. So I've got like 5 indicators telling me there was probably a lot of fish already done spawning down here. We were like, Athens is about 75 miles south of 4th, and I think it was just further along, and we weren't there at a full moon, so I had like all those indicators telling me, hey, probably need to look offshore, or just for staged fish, post spawn, pre spawn, not up on the bank.
And that was an amazing assessment. At practice, how many days prior to your competing there was it?
I practiced on Monday there, so and then our championship was on Wednesday, so a couple days.
So it had to blow your hair back, like, uh-oh, where'd they go? I mean,
yeah.
Were you second guessing yourself because you really weren't catching them that good early on the final day?
No, absolutely. So I mean that spot right there. I side imaged that after that, and there were, honest to goodness, hundreds of bass on this high spot, this little hard spot that was in like 6.5, 7 feet of water. I mean, I felt like I could catch 100 pounds right there. I really did. There were so many bass there. So of course,
Grizz is hitched up right now. He's headed that way.
Yeah,
needs a waypoint. But so obviously that would end up being the best place that I found. I found some other places that had fish, caught like a 7 pounder later that day in practice. But I had other places I felt like I could catch 2 or 3. But I mean, this is by far the best. So I go there while we're waiting for lines in. They come up schooling once. I'm like, this is going to be so good. I mean, I was so ready. And lines in, I throw out there, and I'm like, I know I'm going to catch one. Nothing. And 5 minutes passes, nothing. 10 minutes passes, nothing. I think it was about 15 minutes I'd switched to a swim bait, this same swim bait, but on a jig head, catch a 3 pounder. And a couple casts later, have one hit it, not get it. And I can see these fish on my Mega 360 still on this point. I don't know that there's as many as what there was a couple days ago, but I actually can see them on my Mega 360, 50, 60 feet away from me where I'm casting. But they are just, they're just not firing. I throw a crankbait in there a few times. I actually can feel my bait bump a fish or two, but never get a bite. Pick up a Nico rig with a 16th ounce nail weight and a Bass Pro for neck worm. About my second or third cast, I caught a 3-pounder. A couple casts later, I caught a 2-pounder. I'm like, well, maybe I can just poke around with this and catch something. And I threw a bunch more and never did get another bite on it. And that place, I think the wind affected it a little bit, but ended up finding out. Excuse me. Andy told me after the day was over with, because he started in the same creek not far away, and he said he saw a boat of locals there on our day of practice catching one every single throw at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I found it at like 11:30 in the morning, but apparently that evening, a couple guys just out fishing found it. And I actually made the comment. I was like, man, these fish feel like they've been beat on. They just felt like they were boat shy, that they were bait shy. They were just, and probably that's what had happened. Was that they had gotten beat on. But yeah, so that place fizzled out. But I was like, I've got plenty of other places I'll go and I'll catch some, and I'll fish through some of those that were pretty good. I hung one on a jerkbait that I didn't catch, and I went to another place, caught a 2-pounder. Come back I fished a bunch of stuff that I had waypointed after, on my day of practice, just graphing and looking, and nothing. And come back to one point and missed like 3 on a Carolina rig, and I'm just, man, I'm about to pull my hair out. I'm like, I know this is the right thing to be doing, and that this was a way I could win. If I just hit one school of fish, I can easily win. And once I got to be 10 pounds or 15 pounds behind Mark Daniels, I was already committed to fishing this way, but I have to be at this point. I can't go to the bank and beat him. You know what I mean? I knew he was running the bank. I knew Coulter was running the bank. I'd seen them as 1,800 acre lake. So I know these guys. I know that's how they're fishing, and they're going to catch a fish or 2 fish here or there. That's what they're going to do. That's their pace of the day. but that was why I stayed. Once I got 10 or 15 pounds back, that made me even that much more committed to fishing that way, because I couldn't catch up on the bank.
That's interesting. What a great strategy. I mean, being able to know that. If you didn't see them, it might have changed your strategy and made you do something different.
It would have at least made me think. It would at least make me think, well, if they're fishing offshore, they've not run into a group of them, and they're struggling as well. But yeah, having seen them and knowing that they were, and I kind of assumed just by the pace they were catching fish anyway. But I did. I saw both of them, just going around pockets and stuff. Mostly with spinning rods, either sight fishing or wacky worming or whatever. And yeah, that's the pace they're going to catch them. If they hit a good pocket, they'll catch 3. It's just, when you're fishing like that on a small lake, and obviously multiple guys were doing that same stuff. And about the time I started catching them, out, and Junior did too. And it turns out he was offshore, fishing some deeper grass with a chatterbait, I think. But he was kind of the only one who really got on a deal with multiple fish, groups of fish, where you catch multiples pretty quick.
Yeah. I saw him doing that with a vibrating jig, Alton Jones Jr. And a shout out to MDJ, who also has a lot of amazing instructional content over on Bashu TV. He had a masterful qualifying round over there on the Fork, and really started to just separate himself here. I don't know if you knew, he was using a methalate floating worm of some kind, old school stuff. Yeah, and it kept working.
Yeah, I didn't know that until it was over with. Yeah, kind of, not bubble gum, but a similar, really just gaudy color, like that for some reason works around the spawn.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And what was really interesting to me, I have no idea why that stopped for him. Like, he hit the wall on that pattern at like the end of the second period. He was done. Mm-hmm. I can't explain why.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing that would make sense, honestly, is that there were probably 7 or 8 guys fishing the same type of stuff, on an 1,800 acre lake, maybe they had all made the lap around by that point, or covered all of it twice possibly. That's the only thing that would make any sense, honestly, to me, that as to why that would have quit for him when it did.
Yeah. Well, here we go, guys. We've set the table. This was right. You worked hard. You're battling. You're struggling. When you're done with this, guys, you got to go to Major League Fishing and watch the last hour of Ott's flurry, because it was just absolutely mind blowing, and it's so rare to be in that situation. And here you find yourself with no time left, like a 15-pound deficit.
Yeah, it was actually, I had, so at 4:45, I think was when I caught my first one, and I was 22 and change down.
Whoa!
I had 75 minutes, and I was 22 and change down.
Man, and it was insane. And here you go, and I'm watching, and I'm like, well, there's no way he's going to catch MDJ, but this is going to be fun to watch.
Right.
And it just kept coming and coming and coming. Different baits, different tools.
Yeah.
I saw you start out with a hair jig, of all things, which freaked me out. I'm like, what in the world's he doing?
Yeah. So the very first one I caught was on that DT10 out of that school of fish. The very first one. I idled for the fourth time that day. I idled back through that bridge, and off to my left side, I could see the shadows. I didn't see the dots, but I could see the shadows cast from those fish. So mark a waypoint, kill the engine, walk back up. I grab that bait, throw it right back through there. And as I'm reeling it back, I could actually feel it bump across their backs. I hit like 4 fish on that first cast, but no bites. I throw back. I bump 3 or 4 fish again, nothing. I think it was either my 4th or 5th cast that one finally bites it, and I catch a 2-3. I land that fish, and the school erupts. And then I realized, dude, all I need to win is right here, if I can make them bite. So they come up. I grab a jerk bait, because that's what I'd call them on in practice. And, dude, I don't know how I didn't snag one. I don't know how I didn't snag one when my bait hit the water. Because there are so many bass going everywhere. And I'm jerking and jerking and nothing. I get that cast in, and they are still just going nuts. And I'm jerking and jerking. I don't know how I've not snagged one at this point. And I actually yell at them. I'm like, somebody bite my hook. You can see it on live. I did. I yelled at them. And then it's either that cast or the next cast. Finally, I catch one on the jerk bait. Well, then they settle back down. I'm like, obviously the jerk bait is not the bait. I was throwing all over them. I think I actually may have caught one on top. I got that one in. I'm like, this is not the right bait. And I threw a wake bait in there, and I caught one. Then they settled down. And I actually had a hair jig laying there that I had threw on that group of fish that morning to try to trigger them, and they didn't bite. So I grabbed that hair jig, throw it in there. And I don't know if it was the first cast or 2 or 3 casts later, I started catching them on that hair jig and caught probably 4 or 5 scorables on just a little bucktail jig. Man, that's when those fish are pressured. A bucktail will get them to bite when not much else will. And I had them in my boat, honestly, for fork in case I found some pre-spawn fish that were hard to get to bite. That was why I had them in there. But I'm certainly glad I did down there on Athens.
So is that the lesson, Ott? If the fish are erupting all around your boat and you get your lure back to the boat, it's probably not the right choice.
It's a pretty good chance. Now if you watch on live just how many fish were there, and anything that hit the water, if a fish don't bite it, it's not because one didn't see it. Right. You know what I mean? I know they're there, and I know they're feeding. And if he didn't bite it right then, it probably ain't the right stuff.
No kidding. That's the lesson is, guys, first go find a school of an amazing amount of fish first. and then you can dial in. But you start.
And I was going to say, it ended up being a rotation after that of bucktail. And then when they'd come up, actually on the surface, I'd throw the wake bait. And that was kind of the two that I bounced back and forth through for a while. And then I hit another lull for, 5-7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to go back and watch to see for sure. But I hit another lull, and I was like, let me grab that DT10 again and see if I can just get a reaction. You know, I mean, you know how it is with a crankbait, something that you can fish quick and sometimes get a reaction. And that was when I went back to that DT. I was 2 ounces behind. Actually, I caught one on the DT that was like a 2-pounder, put me 2 ounces behind. The very next fish I caught was a 9.6. So I went from a 2 ounce deficit from like a 9-pounder something advantage.
Wow. And we got some IMs for you. Did you know you won when you caught that 9-pounder? Or did you think I still got work to do?
I thought I still had work to do because we still had, you know, maybe 25 or 30 minutes at that point. I want to say when I caught the 9-pounder, but I was like, man, that obviously did a lot. Did a lot of heavy lifting, and then the very next cast or 2 casts later, I catch like a 5. When I caught that one, I was like, I probably don't have to catch another one now.
Well, yeah, that was made. I thought it was 10 pounds too. I know you were hoping as well. 10 on a DT10.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
What do you got, Riz?
I have a question from Lee C and TJS. The same question actually came in regards to your wake bait. What kind of wake bait were you throwing at those fish?
It's just a finesse balsa wood wake bait. It's a homemade job that I bought around here. But one thing that I was doing with that wake bait that is unique, and I actually looking back at it, and I looked at the bait again earlier today. A modification I'd done to it that I did it in a very dumb way. This is the first time I've used it in competition. Go to get some brats for those guys too, looks like. But using that new VMC, that bladed hybrid treble, those bait fish, a lot of those fish were feeding on was really, really small. But I only put that bladed hybrid treble on the back. And I was looking at that bait, and there are teeth marks all around the back of it. And a lot of those fish, I missed as many as I caught because I could actually watch them come up, and they would only target the back of that bait. And every fish I caught was hooked with the back hook. I should have put them on all 3 trebles, or certainly put it on the front one. It was really dumb on my part, and a lesson well learned. But that bladed hybrid treble, I should have had on my jerk bait. I should have had on everything I was throwing. That bladed hybrid treble, I know made a difference on that wake bait, and I for sure should have had it on my jerk bait.
Man, that's interesting, guys. That's a VMC. It's a blade on the back of a treble hook connected to the treble hook. Little blade. It won best in show at ICAST this past year. Yeah, and it's really cool. It's a great way to trick out your baits. I think we all want to put it on the front of our baits next time.
that's on. I'll definitely be putting it on the front from now on. And that's honestly one of those things I kind of hate that they're a sponsor in this particular scenario because it's such a good thing that I would much rather not talk about it. I mean, but it's one of those kind of deals that's like, if they weren't a paying sponsor, you know, I could just use it a lot and not talk about it any. Would probably be just as well off. But I should do my part and help promote it, I guess, because it's dynamite.
Well, that's pretty cool. I know I'm going to be using it a lot. What do you got, Riz?
Davey Harris wants to know, or I apologize. Jeff C would like to know, Ott, when you were fishing those fish that were schooled up, were you using your hydrowave, and if so, what setting?
I honestly was not using it. I typically do use it a lot, but honestly was not using it in this particular scenario. When I do use it, I use like the power pattern and like a 30-second delay. I was actually using a Mercury 250 more times than not in this scenario to fire those fish up. There was one time I was sitting there fishing them, they'd kind of died down. The guy idles under the bridge, and dude, they go to biting and they go to schooling like crazy. So after that, when they die down, you actually might have saw me do it on live. I fired up the motor, idled through there, and 2 minutes later, start catching them again.
That's going to shock people. You guys got to go see it, but we hear people talk about it, but we actually saw you do it, driving through the bait. What do you think it does? Does it stun the bait and then creates feeding? What do you think's happening down there?
I think in that scenario, and this is just my thought process, I think the bait I think the bait comes up near the surface, gets in, say, the top 2 or 3 feet of the water column, and that's just kind of where they rest or try to rest. Where the bass end up settling down, it was like 8 to 12 feet where those fish were. They probably get down in that 5 to 10 foot of water and just kind of hang there. But when you drive across them, it pushes that bait from up in the surface. It pushes that bait down into those bass. This is just my thought. I don't know how accurate it really is, but I think you're pushing that bait from up high, pushing it down into those bass. They get competitive amongst each other because the bait's right there in their face, and then they end up pushing them back to the surface a lot of times. But I feel like that's what happens.
Wow, that's an interesting theory. I never thought about it like that. I thought about it like I just mentioned, where the prop wash probably stuns or confuses the bait, makes it easy targets, and it's probably a combination of all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just stirring up the environment. It's just everything kind of gets stagnant almost, and there was a little breeze blowing through there, so I'm sure there was a little current funneling, but yeah, I think that it was more than anything. It's just the fact that it was just kind of stirring up the environment. One thing if it was shallower, I had actually considered doing it on the place in the back, where it was shallow enough that I could have done it. It was kind of right on the verge, but if I could lock my talons down into place, lock them in the bottom, turn my Ultrex on, and basically in reverse, so where it would be pushing water out in front of me, just turn my trolling motor on and push current through an area like that, to try to use something else, anything else to move the water, move the bait fish to create a something for those fish to use to feed on.
That's a cool concept.
It is it's such a crazy concept because like conventional thought is like don't turn your trolling motor towards the piece of cover and step on it, because if you do, Brian the carpenter will yell at you, and also the fish won't bite.
Yeah,
but,
don't prop wash them. We're trying to catch them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Now at 4, dude, you need to be still. You need to be quiet. You need to not get close to those fish. They're spawning. You want them to not know you're there. But on this deal, they were worried about feeding. They were in a place where they were feeding and going to use everything to their advantage to help them feed. So no, there's certainly times to treat them every different way. But I feel like this particular scenario was use whatever avenue you can to stir them up and to keep them fired up.
Hey, this is Brian. In regards to the bladed hybrid treble that you don't want to talk about, what are some other baits you wouldn't throw it on? Like, do you put that on a DT, DT6, DT10? Do you put it on a Shad Wrap?
Yeah, I don't know that I've not used it enough to know which ones are going to be good or bad for it, but I don't know that there's going to be a bad one. I've used it on top water as my, say hi? As like my, instead of a feather. There's Parker. But I've used it on there instead of a feather some. But man, I don't know that there's going to be a place where it's a bad compliment. I really don't. And it, unlike a feather, you put a feather on the back of a crankbait, it's going to totally deaden the action. I mean, completely. Where with this deal, front hook or back hook, it has so very little drag, but it adds so much flash. It doesn't deaden the bait. Which has always been a limiting factor with the feathers, that it does deaden the action. So I don't know that there's going to be a bad place to use it.
Man, well, that's we're going to experiment with it and see. Mm-hmm. I was watching, and you talked about the depth. I'm going to ask this question, Riz, and then I'm going to pass it on to the IM board for you. But you're throwing that DT10. Were you banging the bottom? Did that matter? Were you fishing, through the water columm? What was the deal with that?
I was hitting the bottom a little bit, but it was not just plowing the bottom. I feel like I would make it. I would feel it contact stuff, but I honestly feel like I was hitting fish as much as I was the bottom. There was I truly do, just because there were so many there. And if you watch, like I'll turn the reel handle stop. I was just 5 or 6 crank stop. I mean, I was, trying to fish it pretty erratic because I wasn't making a lot of bottom contact. I do feel like I was hitting some. I was sitting in the 11 to 12 and landed in about 8. So it was getting close to the bottom, but
Mhm.
it was never really just plowing the bottom the whole way.
Interesting. And that's interesting about schooling fish. I guess sometimes you don't. It's more about getting it through the bait or getting it into that zone than it is really hitting the bottom.
Right. And when I would come across them on the trolling motor, they were never on the bottom. They would be a 9 or 10 foot, a foot or two off the bottom. They were never bellies to the bottom.
Right. What do you got, Rich?
Davey Harris on the message board would like to know, Ott, have you added blades to have you added bladed treble hooks to your jerk baits? And if so, do they affect the way the bait suspends, or does it make it slow float because of the additional weight?
No, great question. It definitely does add a little bit of weight, and compared to just a plain treble hook. So if you've got a bait that is floating, a real slow floater, it's liable to make that bait suspend. If you've got one that's a suspender, it's liable to make it sink a little bit. Most of the jerk baits I use end up sinking when I upsize the treble hooks on them anyways, or use a bladed treble on them. I don't mind that at all. I don't want it to sink like a rock, but I don't mind it sinking. But yeah, it definitely does add a little bit of weight. But same as just upsizing treble hook to add some weight there as well. So it's not a big negative unless you're really having to fish that bait super slow, extremely long pauses, and then the bait sinking a foot or something on that pause when you're waiting for 10 or 15 seconds if you're having to wait that long.
Well, I think we're going to be sold out of VMC hooks here pretty soon after this deal. And it's such a good, if they even have them right now anyway, because I know they've been a real popular bait. And I think probably you're going to have to buy a ticket to make a cast at that bridge right now.
That's what was funny. There were like a dozen boats on the water watching, and of course a couple hundred people right there on the bank, because I was 200 yards from the boat ramp. I mean, it was right beside, where we took off from, left from, and stuff. So a lot of people that were there, gathered around to watch the trophy presentation and stuff. We're all watching me catch them and stuff too. So I actually made the comment. All those boats over there watching, I said, man, when this is over, I want to stay and watch the zoo that's about to happen. Y'all casting over each other's lines and the madness that ensues. But I looked back out there 5 minutes later, and there was one guy in a John boat was the only one that was left. So I couldn't believe that they didn't all stay and start fishing right away. But yeah, no, they didn't. But I would bet the next day it probably was a madhouse right there.
What do you have your side imaging set out to? How many feet?
Yep, I run it on 100 feet.
And is that on a 12?
It's a Humminbird Helix 12. Yep, mega side imaging. Yep. Okay. And that I switch back and forth between 455 and mega frequency. Some places, man, at like Eufaula this year when we were there, for whatever reason, my 455 was giving me a better picture.
Your 455 kilohertz.
Yeah. And I would have a better picture there with that. But then down here and on Fork as well as Athens, my mega was a better picture. I don't know if it's something to do with stuff that's in the water, whatever it may be. But I do feel like that's something that you got to check everywhere you go is which frequency gives you a better picture.
All right, I got a question, and this question comes from Riz B Fishing. When you're running side imaging on different size units, right now on my console, I'm running a Helix 7, and I've found for that unit that it set to 70 feet out, I'm getting the best picture. Now, is that related to does the size of my unit affect that because it's a smaller size? It's a smaller size screen.
Sorry about that.
I have a smaller screen, so should I have a tighter? Should I have a smaller pan out, not go to 100 feet or what?
Does size matter?
A size for your unit absolutely matters to your display. What it looks like. No, absolutely, it really and truly does. I have gotten very comfortable with a 12-inch screen, looking at 100 feet either side and looking at it all on one picture like that. We've on from the Helix, either the 9 or 10 up, they've got a view where you've got the top looks all left and the bottom looks all right. So you get basically the whole width of the screen looking each way for 100 feet. I don't like that. It's technically a lot more detail, but I'm accustomed to looking at 100 foot either side on a 12-inch screen side by side. And I know what fish should look like just because I've looked at it so much.
And what do they look like?
Exactly. What does it look like when you idle past the winning school of fish?
Yeah, I've got the school that I found a few days ago. It's actually on my Facebook. That there's a little video clip of that, and it looked a lot like that as far as the shadows. But I could probably see about a dozen shadows on this particular place. It all depends on the bottom. So if it's hard bottom, you're getting a hard, bright return. You're never going to see the fish. What you are going to see is the shadow. You're going to see the shadow that the fish is casting. You're going to see those little dark spots back there behind them. That's what you're going to see. If it's soft bottom, you'll actually see the fish and then possibly the shadow as well. You'll see those lighter spots and then possibly even see the shadow back behind them as well. But yeah, that's what it all depends on what the bottom makeup is, whether it's hard bottom or soft bottom.
Can't they just do the little fish icon like back in the day?
Yeah, it would be a lot easier if they just pop those up on there and tell you, 3 pounds, 5 pounds.
Yeah. Tells you what to throw. You know what I mean?
Right.
This one will bite a chatterbait.
Yep.
This one will bite. This one won't.
Yeah,
that's right.
Throw the shaky head.
Yep.
Hey guys, that was some knowledge there about identifying fish and using your Humminbird units to do it.
But what Riz was asking though is the thing that that's really important for every angler. Honestly, 100 foot works well for me on my 12-inch screen. It may be 50 or 60 or 70. It's whatever you get comfortable with the size screen that you've got. And yeah, definitely on a 7-inch screen, 70, 75 feet probably is as much bottom as you need to try to look at a time. Either side. Even down to 50, maybe a better picture. But it's wherever you get comfortable, and definitely the amount of what you're trying to look at should go down with a narrower screen.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer side imaging or Humminbird 360? Like if you're gonna put your underwater eyes on something and break it down and identify it, what do you like to use better?
Man, both of those tools are so very effective, but I use them so very different because I use 360 only when I'm fishing, and I use side imaging only when I'm graphing, when I'm actually looking. Like 360 for me is when the trolling motor is deployed, and I'm actually fishing. Where my side imaging is when I'm back there at the console idling around looking. Okay.
When you're running your side imaging and you say you see something that's super juice, it's a sunken boat on the middle of a secondary point, and you scroll your cursor over and you drop a pin on that piece of cover. Now, because your units are linked, that automatically goes up to your front screen, right, on your GPS correct. Up front. Now, how do you line up your cast to be able to hit that target?
That's the beautiful part then with 360. If I want to make that waypoint, if it's something super identifiable like a boat or a rock pile or whatever, unless I know I want to keep that waypoint, a lot of times I won't even mark it. I'll be just like, that was cool looking. I know it was off the left side of the boat, about 50 foot away. Just stop. I'll drop my trolling motor. I just whoop, right there it is on 360, and I'll throw over there and hit it. And then if I catch one, then I'll mark it on the I can mark it then on the front graph or whatever. But that's with that 360, that's where that tool is so very valuable. Is I can just spin the boat right around. I don't have to start idling towards my waypoint and stop when I think I'm about 150 feet away, drop the trolling motor, try to stay in line and make a cast 12 o'clock off the bow. I can be at any angle, drop my trolling motor, swing around, out there it is, make a cast right at it with that 360. So that's the beautiful part of that.
Tyson, I need one, man. Come on.
Yeah. I think everybody needs one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an amazing tool. I've been doing this a while. I've spent so many hours trying to hit the target that I know is there. I've seen it. I've hit it before, and I'm trying to get my bait back on it. Wind's blowing. It's so hard to do. 360 makes it so much easier.
It is. It really is, man. It is the offshore angler's tool that we've always wanted. It is for me, anyways, and that's what makes it. Athens wasn't mapped. It didn't. It's a small lake. It didn't have an HD map. But that's what makes it. When I'm fishing offshore, I don't care if I've side imaged the place or not. When I'm in the tournament, and I know those fish are in 8 to 12 feet of water, and they're on points or whatever it may be, but they're on rock on a point, I don't have to side image that place before I fish. If I'm in a tournament and time matters a lot, I'll just run to that point, drop the trolling motor. There's the rock, there's the cast. I caught one, I didn't. I'll go to the next one. I mean, that's the beautiful part of that, is that you don't have to graph it, be like, okay, yeah, there is something here, mark it, spin the boat back around, and then try to hit it. Dude, I just pull up and I hit it on my first cast, whether I've been to this lake 100 times or I've never been here before in my life.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing tool, and we're seeing it being used. Brian Thrift, I want to invite you guys. Brian does an amazing instructional on-water video with us about how he does that exact thing with his 360 and side imaging. So that's available right now on Bass U TV. So if you haven't seen 360, go over there and check it out right now.
Yeah.
Or not right now, as soon as we're done talking about it. But hey, you guys fished, and I think it was awesome because all of sport was shut down. Yeah. And we got the treat of watching you guys battle over on the MLF, and I think that format is well suited to possibly continuing in this scenario that we're dealing with right now. I know that you guys have been talking about it. What's happening next? Are you guys going to be fishing, or are you guys going to be holding off for a while?
We honestly don't know. We had an all angler call yesterday, I think it was, and just to kind of gauge the anglers' interest or concerns, or what our thoughts are on being able to fish or not being able to fish. To see just where our minds are and everything. And I think the overwhelming majority of anglers want to fish. We understand that everything else is kind of shut down, and it's an opportunity if we are able to fish that that we can do great things. And I think as a group we feel like we certainly have the best opportunity of any professional angler, any kind of tour to be able to fish just with the way everything is structured. Small groups of anglers. We don't have to leave at the same place. We can pick different ramps. We can, we've just got the official in the boat, at most the cameraman. We don't have to go back to a crowd at weigh-in or anything like that. So there's a lot of positive things that could allow us to. But as of right now, we don't know. I mean, we just don't know. We're supposed to have an event starting like April 3rd or something over in North Carolina. So we really don't know what the status of that event is. If we'd be able to, if we won't, just kind of what it looks like. But I think as a whole, the vast majority of anglers, myself included, would like to fish if, number one, if our families are safe. Number two, if we can go to an event and we can be safe, we can get gas, we can get food, we can have a clean place to to be in our lodging and stuff. And if we can do that, I think we would like to fish.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to see it, but we certainly want you guys to be safe first. And that's most important. That's most important for all of us. It's going to be a rough time. Hopefully by April 3rd. We'll be on the other side of this thing. And that's what we're all hoping for, and we can get to see you guys fish.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think it'd be great. If nothing else, it'd be a good morale booster for everybody out there watching, and keep shining the light.
Absolutely, and fishing's a great activity for everybody. We were talking about it earlier. It's a place that you can be outside listening to crickets like you are right now.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You're not around that virus, and you can have a great time doing it. And we're gonna. I know all of us are gonna try to get out and do some when we can. But we have an amazing person that is associated with us, the great keeper of the scrolls, Ken Duke.
Yeah.
He knows all, and we have some trivia questions courtesy of Ken Duke and Fishing Tackle Retailer. And BTC, let's go down that trivia road.
All right, we got a few tonight, and I think this first one's going to go quick. So, all right, guys. And the trivia question is for?
The trivia question is for a Rapala gift pack valued at 45 doll hairs.
Nice.
The spotted bass is the official state fish in what state? Gonna be a quick one. And this has to be answered on the Bass Unit website,
I thought you were asking me.
/live.
I'm glad I'm not on the spot.
You don't know the answers?
I've got a guess, but I don't know. Am I supposed to throw it out there or no?
No, you're not.
Okay.
No.
I have a guess, but I don't know that it would be right.
I don't know if it's right or not, but I'm thinking that question has been asked because Ott Defoe is here, and maybe it's that state where he resides.
We have a winner.
No, ours is a smallmouth.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So what's your
Interesting.
guess?
My guess would be Georgia.
Lake. That would be one of my guesses too. Lake Lanier, obviously, making spots famous. It can't be. I mean, California's got all the 10-pounders, but it can't be California, could it?
Nah.
I wouldn't say. South Carolina or North Carolina.
We got a winner on the message board.
South Carolina.
The answer
North
is Kentucky.
Carolina.
The answer is Kentucky, and the winner is
Kentucky
Richard
Bass.
Chupp Jr. He came in at 9:02 and 14 seconds.
That's right.
And
Richard Chupp Jr. Congratulations.
That's right. There's 2 Tokyo rigs, 2 packs of Tokyo rigs, 2 packs of Nico hooks, VMC Nico hooks, Nico tail skirt, a DT10, and a shadow wrap.
Yep, and a shadow wrap and a Bass U neck gator.
Oh, damn.
And you played that question well too, Brian the Carpenter, because around these parts and those parts, they call them Kentuckies. They don't call them spotted bass. They actually call them Kentuckies.
Wow.
So yeah.
And I feel dumb for not guessing Kentucky. I mean, it's a Kentucky spotted bass. It's like in the name.
Yep.
I miss that one. That was a duck. We all missed it.
Credit and blame goes to Ken Duke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to fire up another one while we got out here?
I got a question that keeps popping up for Ott, and it's from none other than our man Epic Eric. Ott, tell us a little bit about the new DT Slim.
Yeah.
Well, it's OG Slim. I actually brought him along. The OG Slim right there. This is a hand done one by myself. This one's got kind of a yellow circuit board lip. The factory ones, I've got some with a white, but it'll be a white circuit board lip. And that one's actually in the Big Shad, and my buddy painted for me right there too. But yeah, that's it. Flat sided bait with that circuit board lip. It'll have a circuit board lip in it, kind of round like that. But yeah, that is. Slim was a bait that actually Mike used in the Classic last year here in Knoxville on Fort Loudon and did pretty well on. They caught some on the DT as well, DT6, but I think he really thought Slim was going to be be his main player, but ended up being more of a DT6 deal for him. But that's something I've been working on. I mean, I've had it for 5 or 6 years now, but been using it off and on here and there when the conditions are right and stuff. And for me, it's mostly a cooler water bait, in that 50 to 60 degree range, pre-spawn cranking type stuff, pretty tight action, but cast really good. Man, just an excellent bait. But it's the OG, which stands for Ott's Garage. Slim 6. So it'll run about 6 foot I throw it on 14-pound line. Run about 6 foot, but yeah, it's out of the OG Ott's Garage line of baits when we come from Rapala. So
that's beautiful, man. And that's going to come out this summertime. Official release at ICAST, and
that's exactly right. Yep.
Available shortly thereafter.
Yep. That bait of mine there, and then those 5 new colors. We've got Big Shad being one of the 5. but 5 new colors that'll be in all DTs from a 4 all the way through a 16, and then 3 of those colors will even go into the DT20. The ones that are not, there's a couple crawl colors in those 5 new ones that won't be going into the 20, but all 5 of them will be in the rest of the full DT lineup.
I got a question come in off our Instagram from Jeremiah Eads. What is your gear ratio for deep cranking, and does it change with water temp?
It does not. I use the same gear ratio from a square bill all the way to a DT 16 or 20. I use a 6/8 to 1. Back in the day, I used to use a slower one for stuff for like a DT 10 and deeper. I'd use a 5/4. But anymore, I use the same 6/8 to 1 for every single crankbait I throw, all the time, regardless of water temp. I'm comfortable with that reel. I know exactly what the bait's doing. Same as it is with my side imaging. Looking at 100 foot all the time, cranking with a 6/8 to 1 all the time. I know what my bait's doing.
Yeah. I like that too, because you can, if you're changing your gear ratio all the time, it kind of throws me off. Like
Yes.
I don't know how fast I got to crank it with a 5/4.
Yeah.
I really don't know what the bait's doing. If I switch up. So having that steady, gear ratio allows me to slow down and speed up easier.
That's exactly right. I used to, and even with like a wiggle wart in the wintertime, I would throw a slower reel to make myself fish it slower. And it is. You totally change your feel. And that's not a good place to be. You need to know what your bait's doing.
Absolutely. Great question, though.
Yes, that's a really good question.
Brian, you got another trivia question ready to go?
Oh, I do. Rich, do you
We're
have
going
some?
to Rich.
I do. I have one off the message board that I want to get through here from Randall.
Randall.
Talk about why you use a snap instead of split rings, or circumstances where you use split rings over a snap.
Yeah, I
Great
like
question.
that is, man. And they may have saw on Slim there that he's got a snap on him right now. For a lot of my flat-sided baits, I like a snap. It's just one of those things I grew up using. Is it wrong to use a split ring? Absolutely not. You never need to use both. Almost any snaps, they're pretty thin diameter wire. If you use a snap and a split ring, that snap is liable to get inside that split ring and then come off. So you not lose the fish, lose the bait, whatever. But never use both. But man, there's really not a time that I've seen a great benefit from one over the other. But with flat-sided baits, for the most part, I do like to use a snap. I really don't have a great explanation as to why that is. I do think it may give the bait a little bit more play to move around and to swim. But I don't think it makes a drastic difference by any means.
Well, that's a great question, because I got a theory on snaps because I use them exclusively.
Okay.
And I like them because of the versatility it gives me.
Yeah.
I can change colors and depths quicker, especially when I'm at practice. And I'm looking at new water. I can, instead of having to retie or grab another rod, I can just use that snap and get and keep in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, you absolutely can. It does make that a quick change. And I used to always use them. 8 or 10 years ago, I always used a snap 100% of the time. When I got sponsored by Raffle, I was able to get baits by the cases. And then it took a long time to take all the split rings off the front of them. That's when I quit. Honest to goodness, that's when I quit using snaps exclusively. That is exactly when it happened. So, if I was buying them one at a time or two at a time in a store, I'd probably still be using a snap all the time, and I'd be pulling the split rings off of them when I got home, off of the nose. But no, that is exactly when I quit using a snap 100% of the time.
All right. So until you get sponsored by Rapala, keep using the snap.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, we got another trivia question here.
Okay.
All right, here it goes. A member of the black bass family is the official state freshwater fish in how many states?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's going to be a minute. People are just going to start guessing numbers.
Well, yeah, black bass exist in all states except Alaska, right?
I think that's right.
That's correct, yeah.
So there's 49 states. I don't know. I'm going to guess.
Carry the one.
Yeah, let's do some division.
Yeah.
Half of them, maybe less than that. Maybe I don't know, 25. I'm going to guess 15.
Well, you didn't probably win.
I didn't probably win.
You didn't probably win.
I'm going to guess a little higher. You got to take out the states that are probably going to go with a trout. I don't.
A lot of those, right?
Yeah, I don't know how many would go with a catfish or a carp. Probably pretty few.
Mississippi's got to be catfish.
It's got to be. Louisiana's probably a mudfish. There's Washington or somewhere probably a sturgeon. But I'm probably going to go with about 34.
34.
We got a winner already?
We got a winner already, man.
All right, and the official answer is 7 states.
Whoa.
7 states for the answer, and that winner was borderline 11.
Borderline 11. Those states are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Texas.
And see, I thought, well, you said the freshwater fish was bass. Okay, no, it's not just fish in general. I was going to say fish in general. Florida have to be a saltwater fish, but okay.
Right, they got 2 of them.
Yeah,
well, that's pretty much southeast.
Florida and Texas. Great question, though. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
That's always a lot of fun, and man, what I've learned so much, and I know a lot of people watching have learned a ton by hanging out and chatting with you about this win. It was truly an amazing win.
Oh,
I can't remember seeing anything like it.
It was. I mean, to be 20 pounds back with 75 minutes to go, and then they end up winning by about 30 or so was really was a pretty crazy afternoon. Just the way it all went down. When Edwin won at Red Crest, that was pretty amazing. The run that he went on. But I think he was already in the lead. I think it wasn't by a lot, but Wheeler this year at Eufaula, after 2 periods, I was leading there. But he went on a tear early in the 3rd period, and he was just a couple pounds back. He was like, 2 or 3 pounds back. He wasn't far behind at that point, but went on a tear there in the 3rd period and just blew us all away. But I don't know of another one where it's been, a guy seemingly out of it, 20 plus pounds back, and then to come back and win, period, but much less to win big like that was.
Yep. Well, the only thing that sticks in my head is, of course, it's over on the other circuit, but when Jamie Hartman came out of nowhere to win on Gunnersville with the top water, that was in that caliber, and of course, you guys probably don't know this, but it's happened to me. Geez, I lost track of how many times it happened to me, but what happens next is I wake up and then I have to go down and get coffee. In reality, I don't think I've ever pulled it off. But it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome to watch. Like I said, I want to invite you guys, go check out MajorLeagueFishing.com and go back and watch these replays if you haven't seen them. You're stuck in the house anyway. Go check it out. Yeah. And we've got a lot. Ott Defoe's pre-spawn cranking, and I know most places are still pre-spawn right now. And we've got his cranking system, talking a lot about like the DT10 he just used to win. And go check that out. And we've got a ton of great instruction. And I appreciate you being one of our best instructors. You've been with us a long time.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate it. And I attended Bass Universities as a kid when I was, getting started fishing and stuff. And it definitely has come full circle for me. So I enjoyed talking with the fans and with the students that come to them, and hopefully helping them learn a little bit so the next time they're out on the water they'll be more successful too.
And I appreciate you winning on sponsor bait so you can talk about it.
It does definitely help. It definitely does. Yeah, it helps pay the bills, and then they certainly appreciate it as well.
Brian, I saw you back there. What do you got for us?
I just have a comment or critique. At your next MLF meeting, when you guys are talking about game planning or strategizing on production, one thing that aggravates me, or I find slightly annoying, when somebody boat flips a 6-pounder and it touches
Yep.
the carpet, have
Yep.
that marshal wait till he's done celebrating the moment before he, you know what I mean?
2
It's
minute
like,
penalty. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's like they can't wait to tell him it's a penalty.
yeah.
All right, we got it. It's a penalty. Let my man fist bump. Let him
Right.
celebrate. Let the moment live, and
Yeah.
then shit all over it.
And then, don't forget. Oh yeah, by the way, it is a 2 minute penalty. Yeah. Now, some of those officials, dude, if they had a whistle, I mean, I can't whistle real good, but dude, they'd have it in their mouth. As soon as you set the hook, he'd stick the whistle in his mouth. Boy, he'd be ready for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's just have him wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta. Speaking of that, before we let you go, because I forgot about this. What is the deal with fish handling penalties as it relates to non-bass? Because I saw you
None.
do some things with white bass that I was like, "Where's the 2 minute penalty?"
Yeah. No, if it is not a black bass, penalties don't apply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MLF, you got to fix that. A fish is a fish. We love them all. You got to take care of them.
Yeah. No, we only love bass at Major League Fishing. Yeah. Black bass. Yeah.
Well, we loved watching you win. I was cheering for you. I was so excited, and we'll hopefully we'll get to see you play again in April. And I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk with us, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for having me, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Thanks,
All
man.
right, the great Ott Defoe.
You the man, Ott.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, that was incredible educational content. That man, is from the sonar stuff to what those fish look like, hard and soft bottoms, looking for the shadows, all that stuff. Dealing with the tricked out treble hooks. Just amazing stuff from Ott.
Yes. Sorry about that,
Bro.
Pete. I know you want to penalize me.
You get a 15-minute penalty. You got to get some kind of penalty. I don't know. We gotta have you wear a dunce hat on the next show or something.
Oh my God.
In case you viewers watching at home, we have a no tolerance policy on what do we call it, adult language, which was violated with a relatively innocent word, but we're gonna have to flag you on that.
Yeah,
one.
it's not just our it's Facebook's
Yeah.
decided to play morality police. So
Yeah.
Yep.
So we want to apply that. We know we got kids and families watching, and we're going to keep doing that. So we're going to have to penalize you. I don't know. We might have to take some your blueberry bash you sweatshirt. We might have to take that for a couple weeks as penalty.
Gummit.
I see you wearing that all the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, it's great, guys. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We got a few things. We got a couple topics that I want to talk about, but I want to remind you, if you're wherever you're watching right now, we have it's the celebrate 50th anniversary of the Bassmasters. 50 days free and $50 off, and we're continuing this from the classic. In the face of what we have going on out in the world today, we want to try to make it as easy for you guys to get over to us and experience his educational content. And we figure 50 days ought to be able to get you through that process. So come over, take the 50 days free, or do the $50 off annually, which is really an amazing deal that we're offering. And it's live right now over on our site. And if you happen to be watching this post-production over on iTunes, it's Bass Live 30. Bass U Live 30, and that'll get you 30 days free to come over and try our product if you're listening post-production. But speaking of production,
Yes.
I want to talk about something that we were really excited about. We're super excited. We launched this week on Wednesday, and I hope you guys got a chance to see it. And it's the first episode of the Bucket List, which we launched, filmed, featuring Mike Iaconelli, featuring Lake Champlain, featuring big smallmouth, big largemouth. It was amazing production, and we released it this Wednesday. I hope you guys got a chance to see it. Riz, I know you got to see it. You saw it sitting right next to me.
That's right. Yeah, me and Kobe Pellerito driving all around the lake, flying the drone, getting the advanced photography footage.
Yes,
Great time.
right.
That's the best lake in the world. That lake taught me how to fish shallow. It taught me how to fish deep in two trips. Both times, I mean, was just epic. The first time I went up, it was in the fall of the year, the same time that we were up there actually last year, but it was about 4 years ago, when I first got my G3. I went up there with a group of guys from the first fishing club I was ever in, and I learned how to find smallmouth on my graph and catch them on a drop shot out in 12 to 16 feet of water. And then the next time I went up, I went down to Ticonderoga and did the shallow deal, frog fishing, punching, big weight, braided line. And so I got to experience the best of both worlds, and I've been back a few times since, and it's got a special place in my heart, that's for sure. All my life.
Mine too. Mine too.
All my
and
life.
yeah, and there's some big features, like you said. You and Kobe really handled the entire aerial shoot of Lake Champlain from Canada all the way down to Ticonderoga, which was a monumental task, and that's all featured in this production. And of course, Mike was there, and we visited the places where he won back in '99, which was so powerful. It was the jump start to his career. A lot of people think it was the Classic that got him going, and that was huge. But I think this tournament back in '99 kicked him off, and we've revisited those places. We caught giants while we did it. Jeff Olson, of course, man behind the camera and the editing suite, making this all happen.
Broke your favorite rod.
He did break my favorite rod, which I haven't replaced yet. Mark was there. So many people. Jocelyn hooked us all up with the accommodation, and BTC was featured in this episode.
Yeah, I got
eating a sandwich.
Say what?
Eating a sandwich.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I was brought up there. It would have been late '80s for the first time, and I was and I was showed it by some guys at Barrington Rod and Reel. And when we started our bass club, that was the first trip we took. So I was following up on what they showed me and brought our crew up there and introduced Mike to it for the first time. And it was pretty magical, man.
It looks. I mean, I saw the pictures. We got some of these old pictures from when you guys were fishing out of tin boats, and
oh yeah.
Dave Brosnick, thank you for sending us some of those pictures, as well as John McGraw, who was also up there. Big shout out to John McGraw, who operated a boat for us whenever we needed it. And according to Ike, during the post-production derby, of course, Mike penalized McGraw for poor boat driving skills as we dominated. Me and Riz.
Yeah.
Who was in the boat with us, Riz?
It was me, you, Jeff Olson. And
Jeff Olson.
I pretty much called that one, Pete, as we were flying out there. I said, we are gonna kick their tails so bad right now. We did. We beat a Bassmaster Classic champ right there that day, Pete.
That's because he was in the passenger seat at the mercy of McGraw.
And Johnny McGraw came off pad 700 yards before the waypoint.
Oh my God, he's so good at that.
He's watching this right now, still biting nails.
We love you, John.
Yep. It's what it is, buddy.
Hey, it was so much fun. I forgot that Jeff was with us, and he was using that wiggle wart. Just can't get that wiggle wart out of his hand, and putting him in the boat. And we were catching them on spinner baits, and we had a 45-minute derby, and I don't know, we caught some really nice smallmouth.
Yeah,
and had a blast doing it. But it was a great show.
I got the clip. You just reminded me of a time I was up there with Mike. We were practicing for an open, and and he had one break off his wiggle wart, and oh my God, did he lose his mind? It was a special one, it was one of them special wiggle warts.
Yeah, that's funny.
He doesn't just do that on camera.
that was the star of the show. This episode, certainly when I had the rod in my hand, that wiggle wart was a star. It caught some giants, and we've got more coming. Episode 2 is coming right away, and I love that lake.
Two?
What's that?
Where is episode 2?
It's in the tank, going to be launched Wednesday.
Chickamauga?
No, it's part 2 of Lake Champlain.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Part 2 of Lake Champlain. Chickamauga is our next lake, which we have a couple episodes on Chickamauga. That's going to be launched. We filmed that with Wesley Strader.
Nice.
He was awesome. I mean, we spent some time with Wesley there, and him and his wife down at the Classic. Just great folks. Wesley's an amazing talent from that part of Tennessee, and he took us through Chickamauga, which is one of the lakes that just keeps putting 10-pounders on the scale over and over again. And we wanted to get there and showcase the lake, teach people how to fish it, how Wesley fishes it. And that's one of the things about this series is, we dive in. We talk to the guys about their history at the lake, about some really key stories and how it's affected their lives. But we also teach people how to fish those lakes, because we've been getting that request a lot about how to fish some of these lakes. And that's what we're doing through the bucket list as well. So we hope you like it. Let us know, on social. Let us know on our forum. Let us know what you think. And all of that stuff is coming. And this is released every Wednesday on Bass University TV. It's going to be the bucket list. So that's it, guys. I really appreciate you guys hanging with us. Kudos, BTC, Riz, Zach, especially for getting us up and running. We're dealing with some technical difficulties here tonight. Appreciate you guys staying with us. There's Zach, keeping his social distance over there. Appreciate that. And
sorry, Zach.
Well done, everybody.
I put the wrong camera on you, bud.
Yeah. Is that the dunce cap you're wearing, BTC? Is that what you got on there?
Dunce cap for dropping an S-bomb, a non-Facebook approved word.
Yeah. I want to shout out to Stray Cat.
I didn't hear an H in there. I just heard SIT. So, sit.
Yeah. Tell it to the robot.
I want to. When Jake popped in, Straycast reached out to us and was amazed at Jake's hair.
They might send him a job offer.
Jake might get a job offer. The Straycast guys want you on. They love your hair.
Okay.
Yeah, those guys been staring at me the whole time while we've been broadcasting, him and my wife. But it's nice to be here at home. It's nice that we're able to bring this to you guys. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to find ways to get live to you guys.
That's right. If you're home, you can't be late.
When have I ever been late, man? Keeps honoring me for being late.
Wasn't you that was
but
late
never have I been.
It was us.
Jake's come back in for a visit. It's bedtime around here, guys. And, man, I'm looking forward to getting out and doing some fishing. I want you guys to – I love that hashtag from Berkeley, hashtag fish through it. What a great concept. Let's get out there.
Yep.
Let's do the right thing. Let's stay out of the crowds, but get out there and keep fishing. I know we're going to definitely do that. And when you're not fishing, we hope you come over and visit bashy.tv. I appreciate everybody being with us tonight. Thank you guys in studio. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ott Defoe, for spending some time. Thank you, Jake, for the wonderful hair. And we will catch up with you guys real soon. Watch for it on social. Watch for it on our newsletter. We'll let you know next time we're live. It's going to be real soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
Oh, boy.
Bass University TV presents The Bucket List.
Good Lord, look at the size of this.
An original multi-part series.
Look at that.
Hosted by Pete Gluzek.
Giant largemouth.
The first time I fished Lake Chickamauga was probably in the early 90s. We have a giant largemouth bass that live here.
Pro angler guests and local experts show us their favorite places to fish in the country.
I'm gonna go over some of the things that I've learned through the years on how to get in these areas.
You'll learn amazing fishing techniques.
And that's why you don't want to be afraid to go as far as you can go. You're welcome, Bass University.
Oh, man. Oh.
Episode 1 features Lake Champlain, a small and giant largemouth bass hotbed. Surrounded by the beautiful Adirondack Mountains, Mike Iaconelli takes us around the lake.
Another one.
showing us his favorite spots to fish.
Big, oh God, a big giant largemouth. Look at that big giant. Wow.
That's the ultimate goal, is to let the fit tell you what to do.
And the techniques he uses to catch the monsters.
Under these dark conditions, you want contrast or brightness.
He also gets up close and personal, explaining his history with the lake and why it means so much to him.
Dude, we are just out from where I won the Bassmaster Top 150 back in '99.
20th anniversary.
Dude, 20th anniversary. I could see the spot I fished right there.
It's an epic, action-packed educational episode that you don't want to miss.
Where else in the country can you catch a 4-pound smallmouth and a 4-pound largemouth on back-to-back cast? You can't do it anywhere else except Lake Champlain.
Bass University TV's The Bucket List, available exclusively at bassu.tv. See why these places should be on your fishing bucket list.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Wow. Dude, look at that. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. That's a beautiful fish.